Hello everybody, this is Monty with Flowers by the Bunch. Today I need to make an arrangement that is on our website, and it's called an I Love You arrangement. So we are going to use a cube vase, and it's just a glass vase that's filled with fresh water. Has a little bit of fresh flower food tucked in. I'm going to start out by gridding my container with some tape. So this is a waterproof tape, and I'm going to put a grid on it so that my flowers don't topple out. If you will look at it, this is the opening. The opening of the container is almost as large as my hand, okay? And so what happens is, if you don't give it a good grid, your flowers will just topple out, and that is no good, especially when the flower arrangement is going to be delivered. So I'm going to start out with taking my tape, and I am just going to tape a strip across the vase, and I'm going to do that 3 different times. So I'm going to come across this vase with 3 different strips of tape. Now, if you do not have waterproof tape at home, that's completely okay. You can use Scotch tape to give you the same effect. Now, when using Scotch tape though, you want to be very careful that the container is dry. If the container is not dry, the tape is not going to stick. And that's the same with any type of tape. So you want to make sure that your container is really dry before you try to tape on the edge. So I am laying that tape right on the edge and going all the way around the lip of that vase. And what that's doing is basically just taping down the strips of tape, okay? Because sometimes they want to come up, so I'm double taping the tape, if that makes at all any sense. But now you can see there's a ring right around the container that helps to hold those strips of tape in place. So it's just a little grid. I did 3 going one way and 3 going the other. All right, now I'm going to pull out my pretty flowers. So the flowers that I have, we're going to use a pretty white hydrangea. And so I'm really just following the picture that's online. And Sweet Victoria pulled all of my blooms. So here is our white hydrangea. I'm going to take my floral knife, and I'm going to cut that stem at an angle with that floral knife, and I'm going to dip it right into some quick dip. Count to about 7, and then tuck that hydrangea right in the middle of that vase. So it gives us, that flower is kind of all the way around in that container, okay? Next, we have got some pretty yellow solidago. And so I've got 3 stems of solidago, and let me show you. It's got some pretty long pieces. So I'm just taking and removing some of those pieces. Lay those on the table. Cut this one at an angle and nestle that right down into that grid there. Okay? I'm going to do the same with the second piece. And actually, I'm just going to pop the tip out of it. Cut that stem. Stick it in, and the same with the third one. And see, it leaves me with some pretty long pieces to work with. I'm going to take this one and just cut it pretty short. I'm leaving it all on the stem. Nestle that in. And I'm taking all these pieces and just stripping the foliage off of them, and then tucking them in as individual little stems. So I got a lot for my money. For my 3 stems, I am able to put solidago all the way around in this container. Okay. I don't think I need this last piece, so I'm going to put it to the side. I may be able to use it either later or on another little bubble bowl. You just hate to throw away good material. So I've got my Solidago all the way around in my container. Let's see what's next. Let's come in with some Alstroemeria lilies. So we have pretty yellow Alstroemeria lilies. I'm going to take this Alstro and I'm going to remove a little bit of this foliage. It just kind of looks like it got a little carried away, so I'm just pinching that off. I'm going to take my floral knife, cut that stem at an angle, and tuck that, nestle that right down into that grid. So I just tucked him right in. I'm going to go ahead and remove just a little bit of this foliage also. Cut that stem at an angle. And nestle him right down in to that hydrangea. So look how happy those little yellow Alstros are. All right, next we have some pretty orange colored spray roses. So we have some beautiful bright orange colored spray roses. Again, we're going to kind of do like we did with our Solidago. Here's a really long stem. I'm going to pull him off. So he's going to be an individual stem I'm going to tuck in. And then I'm going to leave these three together, and it's just strictly because they're just shorter stems, okay? Take that floral knife, cut that stem at an angle, nestle him right in. Oh, I love that orange and yellow. It's pretty together. Here's another long stem. Pull him off, set him to the side. Remove any foliage that might fall below that water line. Cut that stem at an angle. Nestle him right down into that vase. Now I'm going to take these two stems, remove the foliage, cut that stem, and see he's going in as an individual bloom. And the same with the second bloom. Just nestle that right down into that vase. Now I love a compact design. They just make me happy. They look like you get so much more for your money when this actual arrangement so far has one hydrangea, 2 orange spray roses, 2 Alstroemeria lilies, and 3 Solidago, and it is as full and pretty as can be. But we still have more blooms to go. So let's come in with some blue delphinium, give it just a touch of height. So we have some pretty blue delphinium. And what I'm going to do with this guy is I really don't need him this tall. I'm going to pull off some of these blooms. Now the reason I'm doing that, instead of cutting it in half and using it as 2 stems, is some of those little blooms were broken. So I just went ahead and pulled those off. Taking my floral knife, cutting that stem at an angle, I'm going to nestle that bloom kind of into the center of that arrangement. Give us a touch of height. And with this one, I think, let's see if we can't, we're going to cut it in half. So I'm going to leave the blooms intact on this stem here. I removed a few of the blooms on this one so that it has enough room to stick down into that water. And then now I'm going to take this piece that has a few blooms, cut that stem at an angle, and I'm just going to tuck those blue blooms right down into the back there. So it kind of pulls our blue here and there, okay? Next we're going to come in with some fuchsia colored stock. Look at how pretty that color is. Now stock comes in lots of pretty colors, but this is such a happy color and it works so wonderful with all of the other blooms that we have in this arrangement. I'm going to take that stem, cut that at an angle, and nestle that bloom right down into the hydrangea. But you can see how well this arrangement is holding together. It's not going to fall apart, and that's our main goal, is that when we put an arrangement together, it needs to be very well put together. You don't want your flowers to fall apart, your flower arrangement to fall apart. So there's our stock. Next, we need to come in with our sunflowers. So we have some pretty large-headed sunflowers. Look at how amazingly pretty these blooms are. So pretty. Now what I'm going to do is their little necks are a little fragile, so I am going to take some florist wire. I'm going to get two 2 pieces of florist wire, and I am going to take, if I can pick it up, a little piece of wire. I'm going to wire it just like I would a Gerbera daisy. So I'm going to take that piece of florist wire and I'm pressing it right into the disc of that sunflower, just like I do a Gerbera, and I'm going to twist that wire right around that stem. And what that's going to do is hold his little head. We're not going to have any issues with the weight of the flower on this fragile little stem. I'm going to take that floral knife, I'm going to cut that stem at an angle, and I'm going to nestle him right here in the front of this arrangement. Oh, I love him. He makes me happy. Okay, I'm going to do the same with his brother. I'm going to go ahead and remove that foliage. I'm going to take my florist wire and I'm going to press it right into the disc up underneath. And I'm going to twist that wire to hold his little head right in place. So see, it's not going to go anywhere. Take my florist knife, cut it at an angle. I tucked him right in there on the corner. Okay? We've got some pretty red carnations. And these really aren't like a true bright red. They're almost a little variegated. They kind of have a peachy color on the tip. Now, I love a carnation. I love the fact that it's long lasting. It's just so pretty. Now, if you take good care of a carnation, it will last up to 2 weeks as a cut flower, and sometimes longer than that. So let me explain to you what it means to take care of a flower. So when you get cut flowers and you take them home, you have them in a vase at your home, if you would take those flowers, remove them from the vase every other day, pour out the water that's in the container, and change it out to fresh water. If you can, go ahead and cut the stems of the flowers and drop them right back in that fresh water. Your flowers are going to last so much longer. And really, you only have to do it every other day, and they will last a long time for you. The next flower and the last bloom that we're going to use is called Scabiosa. And Scabiosa is almost, if you look at it close, it almost looks like a little pin cushion. I don't know if you sew or if your grandmother sewed. My grandmother always had a little pin cushion that sat in the sewing room, and I used to like to look at it and play with it. Well, the center of the bloom looks a little bit like a pin cushion, and all of the flowers kind of radiate from that center. Just a really fun flower. So I'm going to take this Scabiosa flower, I'm going to cut that stem at an angle, and I'm going to nestle him right down in to my foam. My vase, not foam. Didn't use foam. Now, this one has not bloomed a lot yet. It doesn't have all its little blooms coming out. It's just more of a bud. Now, Scabiosa comes in lots of colors, but this deep purple color or plum color is really lovely. Now, I am leaving the little straws on these flowers. And what that does is these little guys, their head is heavy for their little stem. And so if you'll leave those little straws on it, it helps to support their little heads. All right, so there's our flowers all the way around in our container. The next thing we're going to do is add a little bit of greenery to our arrangement. Now, we went outside and we cut a little bit of Nandina. Nandina is a shrub that grows here, and so we went out and cut a few little stems of Nandina, and so I'm just going around our arrangement and just putting it on the side. I love the fact that Nandina kind of looks lacy. It's a lacy little foliage. It holds up so well in floral arrangements. So I want you to think, when you're making arrangements at home, go outside and cut some foliage out of your yard and see if it will hold up. Now, how you test foliage is you just simply take it, cut it, and put it in a little vase of water and see how well it's going to hold up in water. And if it doesn't hold up, you don't have to cut it. Don't cut anymore. But if it holds up, then you can go out and cut your own foliage from your yard. What that's going to do is, number one, it gives you lots of different options on foliage. Number two, it saves you money. So go out and cut your foliage. Because it's really fun to see what was growing in your yard too, honestly. Okay, so there's our little Nandina. A nice thing too about Nandina is Nandina has pretty berries. Pretty berries that are on it. Now, I have a hard time being able to harvest the berries because the birds really love the berries. But if the birds don't eat all your berries, you can certainly use your berries in the fall. Another thing that's nice about the Nandina is when the weather starts to get cooler, the color of the foliage starts to look like autumn. So it'll get kind of red and orangey colors, even a little bit of yellow. And so it's a lovely foliage. I just dropped my knife. It's a lovely foliage to use in the fall too, because it gives you lots of pretty color. All right, I'm going to place our last little piece of foliage and we will call this arrangement finished. So the flowers that were chosen for this arrangement include blue delphinium as our line flower, a fuchsia colored stalk, these beautiful sunflowers that were locally grown, scabiosa flowers, we have 3 of those, the orange spray roses that are nestled right down into the arrangement, yellow alstroemeria lilies, these beautiful red colored carnations. My mind just went blank for a half a second. We have a white hydrangea as our base, and then solidago filler flower and Nandina foliage. Guys, thank you for being here today. If you have any questions about flowers, blooms, any of the things, or even how we do things here at our flower shop, please don't hesitate to ask down below in the comments. We're so happy to answer your questions. Also, if you have not subscribed to our channel, we would love for you to do that. If you'll hit that little subscribe button, and if you'll hit the little bell down below, you'll get notifications for when we have a new video up. Guys, y'all have a wonderful afternoon, and we will see you real soon. Thank you so much.